Stephen, welcome to the show. Lovely to have you on. By the way, just before you start, mate, what are you doing for Waitangi Day?
I'll be at the farm. I'll be. Hopefully, I'll be.
You'll
on
be
the
digging.
Yes, exactly.
Could you
That's
put
recreational bulldozing. There's nothing that it gets rid of the aggro better than that.
All right. Listen, mate, the reason I'm talking to you this morning, and thank you for joining us, is because you've highlighted in your free speech crusade a particularly egregious, it would appear, attempt at halting free speech from Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trades officials. Can you take us very quickly through what the factual background is, please?
Yeah, the Israeli Institute has been OIA and getting internal documents to try and find out why it is that New Zealand's had such an anti-Israel policy. I mean, we've sponsored resolutions against Israel. We've said that we'll arrest Netanyahu if he comes here. We've kept paying $1 million. Even under Winston Peters, we're still supporting essentially the Palestinian side. And they've been trying to understand it, and using law as we're supposed to be able to do, they've found out who has been making the recommendations. And so in the course of revealing what they've found, they've mentioned the names of the people, the officials who've been responsible for the recommendations and for the policy. And MFAT doesn't want that. It says that it's causing them serious distress. I mean, they haven't doxed them. They haven't said their private addresses or given contacts and said, go after these people. They've just reported the fact of who's responsible for this weird policy that the Israeli Institute thinks doesn't fit with where most New Zealanders want to go, that it's much more sort of MFAT currying favour with its international community and disregarding New Zealand's interests. So it's a proper matter for public disclosure and discussion. MFAT's gone to the courts, or it's going to the courts and is trying to get this material banned, or the disclosures banned under the Harmful Digital Communications Act.
And there is the threat that you say that this particular piece of legislation, I think it was put in by John Key's government, the Harmful Digital Communications Act of 2015, is now being utilised to close down freedom of speech in this country in a way that I thought the Bill of Rights sort of would prevent. But you're saying your argument is, in actual fact, it puts the Bill of Rights Act aside, does it?
Well, the way it's working is, in some ways, it's that old thing, the process is the punishment. It's such a threat and costs us so much, and it works secretly, so people suddenly get an order without having heard anything before they get it, saying you're now silenced and you're not even allowed to talk about the fact of this process. That's not, in fact, how it worked with the MFAT, but that's how the way it works with many. That's how it worked with Portia Mao, who's being pursued by agents of the Chinese Communist government. So it's a problem. The Act does say that in a court applying it should have regard to or recognise the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act and freedom of speech, but it's pretty clear they regard that as ho-hum, and all they really look to see is, was someone distressed by this? Okay, we'll block it.
Now, just for listeners, the extraordinary thing about the Digital Communications Act means that if I feel subjectively oppressed by whatever somebody said on social media, and that's why this particular group's involved, then that's good enough. There is no objective test as to whether or not I've been rattled or am severely distressed. Is that correct?
Yeah, in effect. And it's also... truth is a relevant consideration, but it's only one among a long list, and it's not a defence. So over the hundreds of years in which people have established the principles of free speech, one of the big things was getting, for defamation, truth as an absolute defence. If it's true, you can say it. And that's because, the truth or falsity of someone's reputation is vitally important. And if it's true, you don't deserve your reputation. But this Act doesn't have any respect for that at all. And MFAT, I mean, it's ludicrous. I don't know what you feel about it, but these people who are out there supposed to be fearlessly defending New Zealand against all sorts of threats are wilting at the fact of exposure of their own work.
Yes, the thing that, and this is the reason why we're talking this morning, that intrigues me so much is, can I just give you an analogy? I, as you may or may not be aware, am a local government elected official. And every time there is a meeting of my council, and it's no different than any other council in New Zealand, there are a series of reports that are made to our particular council with the information attached and a recommendation as to what to do. Do this, don't do this. Delay is more likely. But at the top of every one of those reports, there's who's written it, the name of the person and the status or the position that they hold in the organisation. And that is publicly available. So in other words, that in every local government report, as I said, in any council that I've ever worked with, whoever's provided that information is named in the report and that information is publicly available. Are you saying that MFAT are saying that when their advice goes to the minister or anybody else, they want their names removed from it, despite providing the sole form of advice, very much like local government, upon which decisions will be made?
I don't know internally. I haven't seen the emails that they got. I don't know whether that's the extent of what they're claiming. What they're saying is that the Israel Institute is not allowed to publish their accounts of what they've found and the names that they found. So this is all information disclosed under the OIA. So it's been decided already that the information is available. It's just the Israel Institute is being told they're not allowed to use it publicly because it might cause emotional distress to those who've authored these papers. And in my view, the Free Speech Union doesn't take a position on the rights or wrongs of the Israel or Palestine thing.
But that's absurd. I mean, these people are paid enormous amounts of money. They're providing advice to the government of the day. Why is their name private? If it's not private, then that's the point that I'm trying to make. In the local government sector, when decisions are made, why on earth would central government be somehow immune from that?
Yeah, well, look, the problem is, MFAT it just seems nuts to me. But the principle under the Harmful to Digital Communications Act is you could actually find it could be used by your council to prevent you from naming officers who you think have been providing a whole string of dodgy advice, even though it's been on public documents. This act could be used against anyone who wants to basically hold accountable those who have this really influential advice.
So what you're really essentially arguing is that there is a fear. Now, by the way, the mechanism to ensure this act, it's the district court, isn't it, that determines and applies this particular piece of legislation. So the district court is turned by this piece of legislation effectively into a star chamber. Yeah,
it is, because you can get these orders are often made before the target has even heard about it.
Well, that's incredible.
That's what we've found. You get the order, it's the first you've heard that someone is going to try and gag you.
That's extraordinary. And
the theory of it is that NetSafe should be in there as a mediator. Sorry, as an investigator, a preliminary process. But they don't. But that can be bypassed. And with the two cases of the Free Speech Union's taken up at the moment. Sorry, one of them's not public yet, but there's two cases we got where the first they ever heard was when they got served with these orders.